nachdem wir jetzt die ganze Karte aufgedeckt haben, ich denke, es ist die ganze Karte, ich bin mir nicht ganz sicher, gehen wir jetzt von einer Karte aus, die ich jetzt gefunden habe, weil ich natürlich mir nicht merken kann, wo die richtigen Gems sind. Aber jetzt werde ich schaffen. Open the box, da sind zwei Gold drin. So. Und dann gehen wir nach Westen.
Following the 3 sets of wet footprints along the west passage of the tunnel, you soon arrive at a junction.
So, und dieses Mal gehen wir nochmal nach Norden, wo der Caveman ist.
Ahead, you hear the thud of heavy footsteps approaching. Readying yourself for another attack, you fail to see the rock flying towards you.
Da kann man sich nicht ausdenken. Der einfachste Gegner im Spiel, der erste Gegner im Spiel und ich verliere einen Stamina-Punkt.
Your enemy is strong but slow and screams in pain as your sword sinks into his leg. You dodge to the side as the caveman swings his club at you and kick out, knocking him to the floor. Pleased with your victory, you notice that the dead caveman is wearing a leather wristband with 4 small rat skulls hanging from it.
Ja, das nehmen wir nicht mit. Nicht gut, lassen wir sein.
Steps, you see a backpack propped up against the tunnel wall. You wonder if it belongs to one of your rivals. You arrive at a junction in the tunnel. A new branch leads west, but the wet footprints you have been following continue north. You decide to keep following the footprints. You soon come to another junction in the tunnel. One branch leads east, but the wet footprints you have been following continue north, and you decide to follow their trail. The passage opens out into a wide cabin which is darker but much drier. There is a large idol in the center of the cabin that must be 6 meters high. The idol is very smooth.
The first jewel.
It will be difficult to climb.
We need it.
Some rope would have been ideal for this task, but alas, you don't have any. You just manage to grab the idol's earlobe and regain your footing. You scramble over its face and sit
Das
down
war
on the bridge
knapp
of its
as fuck.
nose. You draw your sword and consider which jeweled eye to prize out first. As you touch the emerald eye of the idol, you hear a creaking sound below you. Looking down, you are shocked to see the 2 stuffed birds taking flight. Their wings flap. The guardian snaps at you with its vicious beak, but you're able to smash the hilt of your sword into its outstretched neck. Clawing at your leg with its talons, the guardian rips away a chunk of your stamina. Coming at you with its razor-sharp talons, you're able to swipe your sword, partially removing one of the guardian's toes. The crumpled form of the first flying guardian falls crashing to the floor. You're able to grab the wing of the Guardian and send it crashing into the idol. It recovers,
Headshot.
but you took some of its stamina. The Guardian snaps at you with its vicious beak, but you're able to smash the hilt of your sword into its outstretched neck. Coming at you with its razor-sharp talons, you're able to swipe your sword, partially removing one of the Guardian's toes. Your final swipe dispatches the second flying Guardian. You look down and see the crumpled bodies of the flying Guardians lying motionless on the floor. You start to prize out the idol's emerald eye with the tip of your sword. At last it comes free, and you are surprised by its weight. Hoping that it may be of use later, you put it in your backpack. You lower yourself carefully down the idol, and wasting no more time in the cavern, run forward to the tunnel in the northern wall. Not much farther down the tunnel, you come to a closed door on your left. Putting your ear to the door, you listen intently but hear nothing. You enter a room which is small and completely empty. As soon as you are inside, the door slams shut behind you. Suddenly a voice booms out of nowhere, shouting, "Welcome to Death Trap Dungeon, the ingenious killer labyrinth of my master. Adventurer, I trust you will pay your respects to my master by shouting out his name." You take a deep breath and shout, "Succumvit as a worm!" Once again, the mysterious voice calls out, only this time, to your great surprise, in a far less threatening tone. Good. My master likes those who show spirit. Take this gift to help you. It will grant you one wish, but one wish only. Farewell. A gold ring magically appears out of nowhere and lands at your feet with a gentle tinkle. You pick it up and put it on one of your fingers. The door opens and you step back into the tunnel to continue north. The tunnel twists and turns, but keeps steadily north. Ahead, you see a thin shaft of blue light streaming down from the ceiling to the floor. It sparkles and shimmers, and you can see images of laughing faces in the light. As soon as your head goes under the blue light, you hear the sound of muffled voices. The faces are no longer laughing, but have changed their expressions to one of despair and anguish. A young girl's sad face hovers in front of you, and she begins to whisper a poem. Transfixed, you listen intently, believing that she has a special message for you as she recites, "When corridor doth water meet, do not make a quick retreat. Take a breath and jump deep in, if your trial you hope to win." Memorizing the spirit girl's poem, you step through the shaft of light and quickly head on north. You come to an arched doorway set in the right-hand wall of the tunnel. The heavy stone door is closed, but there is an iron latch and a round handle. The tunnel ends shortly at a junction. Looking left and right, you walk down the passage and soon find yourself standing at the edge of a deep, dark pit. The passage continues east on the other side of the pit. You think you could probably jump over the pit, but you are not sure. There is a rope hanging down from the ceiling over the center of the pit. Taking a step forward, you leap towards the edge of the pit. How lucky are you feeling? Rolling equal to or less than your luck score means you've been lucky, but a higher roll could... Your armor and sword weigh you down, but you just manage to land safely on the far edge of the pit. You waste no time and head east. The tunnel makes a sudden left turn and continues north as far as you can see. You soon arrive at a closed wooden door in the left-hand wall. The door opens into a large candlelit room filled with incredibly lifelike statues of knights and warriors. A white-haired old man dressed in tattered rags jumps out from behind one of the statues and starts to giggle. Though he looks like a fool, the sparkle in his eyes makes you think there is more to him. In a high-pitched voice, he says, "Oh, good! Another stone for my garden. I'm glad you have come to join your friends. Now, I'm a fair man, so I'll ask you a question. If you answer correctly, I'll let you go free. But if your answer is wrong, I'll turn you to stone." He starts to chuckle again, obviously pleased with your arrival. The old man points at one of the statues, and you recognize it immediately. It is the knight who started the Trial of Champions. The agonized look on his face locked in stone for eternity. The old man smiles, saying,
"This man weighs 100 pounds plus half his weight. How much does he weigh?"
"What will you answer?" Still smiling, the old man looks at you and says quietly, "Wrong." And before you can do anything else, he mumbles a few strange words into the air. You feel your muscles harden and your skin go taut. You start to panic, but there is nothing you can do to stop the petrification of your body. Your adventure ends here. The tunnel makes a sudden left turn and continues north. The door opens into a large candlelit room filled with incredibly lifelike... The old man points at one of the statues, and you recognize it immediately. It is the knight. Still smiling, the old man looks at you and says quietly, "Wrong." And before you can do anything else, he mumbles a few strange words into the air. You feel your muscles. The tunnel makes a sudden left turn and continues north. The door opens into a large candlelit room filled with incredible... The old man points at one of the statues, and you recognize it immediately. It is the... Still smiling, the old man looks at you and says,
"Well done, stranger. You have answered correctly. I wish you good fortune." during the rest of the trial of champions. And to this end, I shall increase your powers. He then mutters a few more unintelligible words, and you feel a powerful surge soar through your body, increasing your skill, stamina, and luck by 1. You bid the old man farewell and leave his room to continue north along the passage. Only a few meters further down the passage, you see another closed door in the left. The door opens into a large room, and looking around, touching the parchment has precisely the effect you had feared.
You raise your sword to parry the skeleton's attack, but it knocks your sword aside and lands a painful blow. The skeleton is strong, but slow. You swing your sword, which smashes into its leg. You dodge to the side as the warrior swings its sword. You kick out, knocking its legs out from under it.
Once again, you reach for the parchment, only this time lying amidst a pile of broken bones. At the back of the alcove are some steps leading down into a cellar. Cobwebs brush your face as you descend. The tunnel continues west for several hundred meters, finally ending at some steps leading up to a closed trapdoor. You climb the steps slowly, hearing muffled voices above you. In the dim light, you can see that the trapdoor is not locked. You throw the trapdoor open and run up the steps into a bright, lantern-lit room. 2 goblins are sharpening their short swords on a stone set in the middle of the floor. You catch them momentarily off.
You hurl yourself at your enemy, fists flailing, and land a stunning blow. You both swing for each other, and in the confusion, both miss. You thrust your sword, and you clearly damage the creature. You lunge at the creature's stomach with your sword drawn, but the creature whips around, parrying your blow. Neither of you are harmed. Your enemy is strong, but slow, and screams in pain as your sword sinks into his leg.
Triumphant in one of your toughest battles to date, you see that the only furniture in the goblin's room is a table, 2 chairs, and a cupboard. The door opens into another tunnel, which rises gently into the distance. You enter a room in which a man in tattered clothing is standing chained to the wall by his left arm, and you see that his right hand is missing and realize that this must be the one nailed to the door. Pleading for mercy, he cowers back from you as far as his chains will allow. You step up to the frightened man and cleave the chain with your sword. He drops to his knees and bows, thanking you over and over again. He tells you that 4 years ago, He entered the Trial of Champions but failed. He fell down a pit and had to be rescued by a trial master, one of Baron Sukhumvit's dungeon administrators. He was offered a choice between death or servitude in Death Trap Dungeon as the trial master's minion. Choosing the latter, he worked like a slave until he could stand it no longer and tried to escape. Alas, he was unsuccessful and was captured by the trial master's wandering orc guards. To teach him a lesson, they cut off his hand and condemned him to a year's imprisonment in this cell. You ask him whether he has any information that might be of use to you. He scratches his head. Well, I haven't exactly done very well in here myself, but I do know that you need to collect gems and precious stones if you hope to get out. I don't know why, but there it is. Without another word, the ragged prisoner dashes out of the room, turning left into the tunnel. You decide to keep heading north. There is an open pipe in the right-hand wall, about 1 meter in diameter. The pipe is wet and slimy, but you crawl on into the dank darkness. Removing the box lid by the light of the tunnel, you find an iron key and a large gem. It is a sapphire. Placing the items carefully in your backpack, you gain 1 luck point and set off north once again. There is a new branch in the tunnel on your left, and ahead you see 2 bodies lying on the floor. You stop and peer down the new tunnel, but seeing no doors or creatures, you decide against walking down it. With your sword drawn, you walk over to the bodies of the 2 orc guards. At least one of your rivals in the Trial of Champions must. The necklace is an amulet of strength, which adds 1 skill point and 1 stamina point. The tunnel soon ends at a junction. Standing there alone and wondering which way to go, although you are slightly uneasy in each other's company, knowing that there can only be one winner in the Trial of Champions, you are both content to share in the benefits of a temporary alliance. And you begin to tell each other of your exploits so far, of the monsters and traps encountered and the dangers overcome. Walking along, you soon come to the edge of a wide pit. It is too deep and dark to see to the bottom. The barbarian suggests he lowers you to the bottom with his rope, saying he has a torch which he can light for you to use. You tie the rope around your waist and take hold of the lighted torch given to you by Throm, as your barbarian ally calls himself. Taking hold of the slack rope, Throm lowers you slowly over the edge of the pit and down into the dark depths below. You can see by the light of the torch that the sides of the pit are extremely smooth. You drop about 20 meters before hitting the bottom of the pit. There, you see another tunnel heading north, and you call up to Throm and tell him of your discovery. He calls back, saying that he is going to tie the rope around a protruding rock on the edge of the pit and will come down and join you. You hear him climbing down, and soon you are together again. Throm retrieves his rope
by shaking it off the rock, and you set off north along the new tunnel. On a stone ledge in the tunnel wall, you see two dusty leather-bound books. Throm grunts his contempt for the written word, urging you to leave the books and hurry on. The book pages are sealed together, but a small hole has been cut out in the middle of them, just large enough to hold a small corked bottle containing a clear liquid. You show it to Throm, who holds up his hand, indicating that he does not want you to come anywhere near him with it. His distrust of things unknown is strongly evident. The liquid is a magical potion that will enable you to detect hidden traps and adds 2 luck points. The tunnel turns sharply to the right, continuing east for as far as you can see. Throm stops and tells you to halt as well. He turns his head slowly from side to side, listening. I hear footsteps coming down the tunnel towards us, he whispers. Draw your sword. You both crouch down to hide in the shadows, and not a minute too soon. For a moment later, you see the silhouette of 2 armed guards. Throm jumps up and dashes forward, screaming a loud battle cry. They are 2 cave trolls. Throm attacks the first one with his battle axe, and you run to his aid to attack the second. You hurl yourself at your enemy, fists flailing, and land a stunning blow. You drop to the ground, sweeping away the troll's legs. It howls as its head hits the hard ground. You drop to the ground, grab the creature, and ram its head hard into the wall. You look to the left and see Throm standing over the cave troll he has slain. Blood is pouring out from a deep cut in his shoulder, but it does not seem to worry him. You search the bodies of the cave trolls, but find nothing apart from a bone ring on a leather cord hanging round the neck of one of them. The ring is engraved with a symbol which Throm recognizes. He explains that it must have belonged to druids of the north, and that an ancient talisman such as this will increase your powers if your body is able to accept it. The tunnel leads into a damp cavern with a high ceiling and rock-strewn floor. The tunnel ends at a large oak door. Throm wastes no time in testing the handle and is somewhat surprised to find the door unlocked. He pushes it open and walks into a torch-lit chamber. Sitting alone on an ornate chair is a dwarf who bids you enter. As you do so, the oak door swings shut behind you. Adventurers, you have done well to get this far, says the dwarf in a deep voice. However, as you both know, there can only be one winner in the Trial of Champions. As Trial Master, it is my duty to Baron Circumvit to let only the most able continue. Therefore, I must devise a test of wits and strength to eliminate one of you. Please do not attempt to dispose of me. It will be utterly pointless, for, as you can see, there is no obvious way out of this chamber, and only I know where the hidden exit lies. Now, if you would care to decide between you who will go first, I shall make the necessary preparations. You tell Throm that there is no point in killing the dwarf, as you will never find your way out of the chamber. The dwarf looks at the dice.
Not very good at playing the odds, are you?
He sneers.
I regret you must suffer a penalty before you can continue.
From out of his pocket, he produces 2 pills. One is stamped with the letter S, and the other stamped with the letter L. He asks you to choose one and swallow it. The pill makes you feel dull and lethargic, reducing your skill by 2 points. The dwarf tells you that you can now progress to the second stage of the test. He reaches for a wicker basket and tells you that there is a snake inside it. He tips the basket over and the snake drops onto the floor. It is a cobra, and it rears up into the air, ready to strike. The dwarf says he wants to test. With lightning speed, you thrust your hand out and grip the cobra just below its open mouth. You lift it up, and with your arm outstretched, you dangle it in front of the dwarf. He doesn't flinch, but says in his calm, expressionless way,
Please put the cobra back in the basket and prepare for the final part of the test. Follow me.
You do what he says and follow him back into the chamber.
where Throm is pacing up and down, obviously ill at ease. You wave to him while the dwarf opens a second secret door and tells you to walk on through and wait for him. Again you comply, and you find yourself in another circular room, although this one resembles a small arena. The floor is covered with sand, and a small balcony runs around the arena wall. Opposite the secret entrance you came in through is an ominous-looking wooden door. Suddenly you hear a shout, and you look up to see the smiling dwarf standing on the balcony. He throws 2 pieces of paper down to you. On one of them, the words, "No crop is," are written. On the other, "Ruin moat." In his ever calm voice, he says,
If you rearrange the letters of the words, you will find the names of 2 creatures. You may choose which one to fight in my arena of death.
Can you identify the creature by rearranging the letters? You call out to the dwarf, telling him to send in the scorpion because you are ready to fight. You try to run around the side of the creature, but it grabs your arm, throwing you hard into the wall. The scorpion swings its tail at you, but you are fast enough to roll out of the way. The scorpion swings its huge venomous tail above its head. You step aside as it smashes into the floor, and you land an attack from the side. The swinging, venomous tail is a formidable weapon, and you shriek as it sinks into your arm. You quickly eat some provisions, increasing your stamina by 4 points. Your speed is improving. You run directly at the scorpion and slice at its pincer as you run by. The dwarf calls down from the balcony, congratulating you on your victory. He throws the sack down into the arena and tells you to relax and regain your strength for the final part of the test. Then he walks off, saying he will return in about 10 minutes. After about 20 minutes, the dwarf reappears on the balcony. He calls down to you, saying,
Well, I do have an interesting problem on my hands. Prepare to fight your next opponent.
The wooden door rises once again, and you are surprised to see a familiar face. It is Throm. He is cut and badly bruised and doesn't seem to recognize you. He is clearly delirious as he staggers forward with his axe raised to attack you. The dwarf laughs and says,
The cobra bit him, but he has the strength of an ox and managed to carry on, even though most men would have died. Now you must fight him to decide finally which of you will continue the trial of champions.
You shout abuse at the dwarf. Throm grabs you by the throat and manages to half choke you before you get a chance to push him off. You grab Throm around the neck, but he is strong and pushes you off. Neither of you are harmed. Throm is tall, and you duck, grab him, and ram his head hard into the wall. Exhausted by your long duel, You fall to your knees as you stare at Throm's still body. A bitter loathing for the dwarf fills your heart. Somehow, you will avenge Throm. Engulfed in your hatred, you do not notice the dwarf enter the arena until he is standing right in front of you, a loaded crossbow aimed at your chest.
I know what you are thinking,
he says calmly.
but remember that only I know the way out of here. Get up. It's time for you to leave.
Once on your feet, the dwarf indicates that you should walk ahead of him. Back in the chamber, he crosses over to the northern wall and pushes against one of its stones. A door-like section of the wall swings out, opening into another crystal-lit tunnel. With his crossbow still aimed at your chest, the dwarf smiles, saying,
Good luck.
The tunnel soon divides into two. You hear a buzzing sound coming from the western branch. The tunnel leads into a dark chamber covered in thick cobwebs. Clawing your way through them, you trip over a wooden... You reach the far wall of the chamber and see two doors. The door opens into another tunnel running north. Ahead you see two stone fountains, one on either side of the tunnel, carved in the shape of cherubs. Water spouts from their mouths and cascades into small bowls at their feet. The cool water is refreshing and comes from a source which has been sprinkled with pixie dust, gaining you 1 stamina point and 2 skill points. Leaning against the left-hand wall of the tunnel, you see a pair of bamboo stilts. They are securely chained, and you see a label attached to a padlock which reads, "The price of these stilts is 1 gold piece. Place the coin in the slot to release the lock." There is a slot in the padlock into which you place the coin. Immediately, a little farther on, you come to a section of the tunnel which is covered with thick green slime. It looks threatening, so you decide to test it first with a piece of cloth. The slime's corrosive jelly burns the cloth. You soon arrive at a double door in the left-hand wall. You listen at the door but hear nothing. You try the tunnel continues north for quite a distance before coming to a dead end. The mouth of a chute protrudes from the western wall, and it appears to be the only alternative to turning back. You decide to risk it and climb into the chute. You slide gently down and emerge into a room, landing on your back. As soon as you stand up, you are confronted by the most repulsive sight you have. As you run around the narrow path, you suddenly start to feel dizzy. The gas from the pool is taking effect. Your vision...
Leaning against the left-hand wall of the tunnel, you see a There is a slot in the padlock into which you place the coin. Immediately a little farther on, you come to a section of the tunnel which is covered. You walk no more than 3 meters west before you hit an invisible. You soon arrive at a double door in the left-hand wall. You listen. You're about to enter the room when the potion of trap detection begins to work, and you are filled with a terrible premonition of danger. The tunnel continues north for quite a distance before coming to a dead end. As soon as you stand up, you are confronted by the most repulsive sight you have ever lived. As you make a lunge at the blood beast, you suddenly start to feel faint. The gas rising up from the pool is highly. The blood beast is too bulbous to climb out of its pool, but its long tongue whips out and tries to wrap itself around your leg. Fortunately, you have fallen beyond its reach. The air at ground level does not contain any of the poisonous fumes, but you wake with a pain in your throat. You cover your mouth with your sleeve so that you can breathe through it and decide what to do. As you run around the side of the pool, the blood beast flicks out its long tongue once again. Let's test your skill. Reacting quickly, you manage to jump over the outstretched tongue and run into the tunnel, leaving the blood beast wallowing in its pool to await another victim. The tunnel leads into a large room, its ceiling supported by several marble pillars. As you enter the room, you see a strange beast to your right. It has the body of a lion with dragon-like wings attached to it, but its head is like that of an old bearded man. You recognize the beast. It is a manticore. You raise your shield in front of you just in time to protect yourself from a volley of spikes released from. The giant creature whips its spiked tail at you, firing more spikes. You duck and roll, quickly slicing a chunk from its tail, passing close to you. You seize an opportunity to attack the creature's back leg and manage to bury your sword deep into its thigh. You lunge at the creature's stomach with your sword drawn. It tries to move, but you land a powerful blow. As you are wiping the manticore's blood from your sword, you are surprised to see a small man jump out from behind. The gnome smiles and says, "You truly are a great adventurer. Now, you will also need a sapphire." The gnome, still smiling, says excitedly, "Excellent. Just one to go. Lastly, you'll need a diamond." The gnome shakes his head and says, "I'm afraid that you have failed the trial of champions." Leaning against the left-hand wall of the tunnel, you see a pair of bamboo. There is a slot in the padlock into which you place the coin. A little farther on, you come to a section of the tunnel which is covered with thick green. You walk no more than 3 meters west before you hit an invisible barrier. The tunnel soon divides into two. There is a large panel of glass in the left-hand wall of the tunnel. Through it, ahead, in the far distance, you hear the sound of slow footsteps coming towards you. A crippled man with shackled feet shuffles into sight, carrying a wooden tray laden with bread and water. He eyes you suspiciously as you offer him a portion of your provisions. After a short while, you arrive at another junction in the tunnel with a choice of 2 directions. Set back in the arched alcove in the tunnel wall, you see an ornate wooden chair carved in the shape of a demon-like bird of prey. Remembering the old man's advice, you search the arm of the chair for a secret panel. You find an almost invisible crack in the arm, which you start to press and squeeze. Suddenly a tiny panel springs out of the arm, and you see a glass phial lying in a cavity. You pick it out and read the label. Doppelganger potion, 1 dose only. This liquid will make you assume the shape of any nearby living being. You place the strange potion in your backpack and continue north, where the tunnel starts to slope downwards and finally comes to an end at a deep pool enclosed by the tunnel wall. The words of the spirit girl's poem flash through your mind. When corridor doth water meet, do not make a quick retreat. Of course, it is here that she wants you to dive into the water. Now, you must decide what to do. Somewhat nervously, you take a deep breath and dive into the dark pool. The northern wall does not project very far beneath the surface of the water, and you decide to take the risk to swim under it. Soon, you start gasping for air and are forced to swim upwards. Trying not to think that you could be trapped in an old submerged tunnel, you are relieved when you surface into cool air. You are on the other side of the wall and can see the tunnel rising out of the water and continuing north into the distance. You wade out of the water and check if you've been lucky with the contents of your wet backpack. Two portions of your provisions are saturated and are now inedible. Other than that, all your other possessions remain intact. You repack them carefully inside your backpack and set off north again. A little way along on the left of the tunnel wall,
you reach the entrance of a large cavern from which you hear a girl's voice crying for help. You can just make out the shape of a human figure rolling about on the floor at the back of the cavern. As you approach the prostrate figure, you see she is an elf, one of your rivals in the Trial of Champions, and she is fighting for her life in the bone-crushing grip of an enormous boa constrictor. With one swipe of your trusty blade, you behead the boa constrictor. You uncoil its massive body from around the elf and try to resuscitate her. Her eyes open a little, but you can see that there is no hope. She looks at you and smiles, and then says in a whisper, "Thank you. I know it's too late for me, but I will tell you what I have learned. Your way out lies ahead, but you need gems to unlock the final door. One of them is a diamond, but I do not know what the others are. Alas, I have not found a diamond, but would urge you to look for one. Good luck." Her eyes close, and she slumps down onto the cold floor. You watch sadly as she breathes her last, knowing she would not mind you take 2 of her daggers and search her leather backpack. Inside, you find some unleavened bread, a mirror, and a bone charm in the shape of a monkey. Walking along the tunnel, you notice an iron grill in the floor. A door comes into view in the left-hand wall of the tunnel. You listen carefully at it and hear nothing. The door is not locked, and the handle turns easily. The tunnel starts to widen, and ahead you see it's opened into a huge cavern from where you can hear the sound of many high-pitched voices. You creep up to the entrance and take a look inside. There are about 20 tiny people with long noses and ears running in a circle around a large golden effigy. You pour the contents of the glass vial into your mouth and swallow the clear liquid. Although you do not feel any immediate change, you hope that the potion will create the illusion that you are a troglodyte, just like the ones in front of you. Taking a deep breath, you step boldly into the cavern. The troglodytes continue their tribal dance, believing you to be one of them. You walk past them casually and head north. Unfortunately, the effects of the potion are short-lived. Suddenly, you hear a shriek behind you as one of the troglodytes spots you, and you are forced to run across the cavern floor. Ahead, you see an underground river running east to west through the cavern, and a wooden bridge crossing over it. After crossing the bridge, you run across the cavern floor. At last, you see a tunnel in the far wall, which you race down until you reach its end at a heavy wooden door. The door is locked. The key turns in the lock, and the door opens into a 4-way intersection of the tunnel. There is nothing to be seen, either to the east or to the west, apart from the now familiar ceiling crystals giving off their dim light. And suddenly you hear a voice calling you. "This way, this way. You are on the right track." It seems to be coming from somewhere directly ahead of you. Your curiosity gets the better of you, and you decide to walk towards the beckoning voice. The tunnel bends sharply to the right, and around the corner you see a little old man with a long beard, cowering behind a large wicker basket. The basket is tied to a rope, the other end of which disappears into the ceiling. The old man sounds very worried as he says, "Do not attack me, stranger. I pose no threat to you. I am simply here to help you. If you will be so kind as to offer me some sort of remuneration, I will gladly haul you up in the basket to the upper level. And believe me, that is where you ought to be." After paying off the old man, you climb into the wicker basket and watch as he tilts his head back and shouts, "Pull it up, Ivy!" The rope goes taut, and the basket rises jerkily off the ground. As you are hauled higher and higher, the old man calls out to you, saying, "You'll like Ivy. She's a nice girl. We call her Poison Ivy." He starts to laugh uncontrollably, and you wonder, somewhat apprehensively, just who is hauling you up. The basket goes through the ceiling, and you find yourself in a small chamber, face to face with an ugly old female troll. Her face is hairy and covered with warts. With a huge hand, she reaches forward and hauls you out of the basket, which she lets fall to the floor below. She grabs you round the throat and says in a husky voice, "I want paying, too." Without even pausing to thank you, Ivy pushes you out of her chamber through a door in the east wall. You find yourself standing at the end of a tunnel with a flight of stone steps leading downwards. From the floor below, you can hear the sound of barking dogs. There is nowhere to go except down the steps towards the sound. It's a shame you don't have a bone to throw down and distract them with. You reach the bottom and, with your sword drawn, face the two huge black guard dogs, which leap at you, one at a time. You may escape after killing the first guard dog. The dog snaps at you with its vicious teeth, but you're able to smash the hilt of your sword into its outstretched neck. Coming at you snarling, you're able to swipe your sword hard, removing part of the dog's tail. You're able to grab the rear leg of the dog and flip it over, smashing its head into the ground. With the first guard dog dealt with, you turn your attention to the second snarling creature. The dog snaps at you with its vicious teeth, but you're able to smash the hilt of your sword into its outstretched neck. Coming at you snarling, you're able to swipe your sword hard, removing part of the dog's tail. You're able to grab the rear leg of the dog and flip it over, smashing its head into the ground. Standing over your now motionless foe, you see a metal capsule attached to the collar of one of the guard dogs. You prise off the top and find a small tooth inside. It is a leprechaun's tooth, which will bring you good fortune, already gaining you 2 luck points. You put the tooth in your pocket and set off east along the tunnel. The tunnel veers sharply to the left and comes to an end at a high wall in which there is a door. You hear a ferocious roar from the other side of the wall, and you wonder what gargantuan beast could make such a noise. You have no choice but to open the door, as the wall is too smooth to climb. Taking a deep breath, you turn the handle and enter a sand-covered pit. There, standing some 10 meters tall on its huge hind legs, in front of large double doors in the opposite wall, is an enormous dinosaur-like monster. It has a tough, mottled green hide and a mouth lined with razor-sharp teeth. Its jaws open and close with bone snapping power, and even you cannot help trembling as you approach it with your sword drawn. The giant creature whips its huge tail directly at you. You duck and roll quickly, slicing a chunk from it as it passes. The giant creature whips its huge tail directly at you. You duck too late and it smashes you onto a wall, costing you valuable stamina. You seize an opportunity to attack the creature's leg, but it's ready for you. Before you can strike, it pierces your shoulder with its razor-sharp claw. You are exhausted and sit down for a rest on the tail of the dead beast. Looking down at your feet, you suddenly notice an iron ring poking up through the sand. The iron ring is attached to a small trap door. It lifts up easily, and inside a small compartment you find a finely crafted shield made of the purest iron. Marveling at its splendor, you strap it on your arm, gaining you 1 skill point. You walk towards the double doors and push them open. The doors open into a tunnel running north. You close the doors behind you and set off once again. Walking along, you see a red line painted across the tunnel floor and notice a sign on the wall which reads, "No weapons beyond this point." The tunnel leads into a marble-floored hall with pillars rising right up to the ceiling. As you cross the floor, your footsteps echo through the hall. The hairs on the back of your neck start to prickle, and you soon sense unseen eyes watching you. Unknown to you, one of your rivals is hiding behind a pillar. It is the ninja, a deadly assassin dressed in black robes. Without a sound, he steps out from behind the pillar and throws a star-edged disc at your back. Instinctively, an inner voice tells you to duck. But how's your luck? The razor-sharp disc whistles past your head and bites deep into one of the pillars. Turning to face your would-be assassin, you prepare yourself as he advances, his long sword. You quickly eat some provisions, increasing your stamina by 4 points. The ninja leaps at you, his sword screeching towards your head. You parry, but his sword bites deep into your arm. You find a used throwing disc and hurl it as the ninja unleashes another. You both miss.
The ninja leaps at you, his sword screeching toward your head, but you parry and are able to kick the fighter directly in the stomach. You decide to search the ninja and find a cloth bag in the folds of his robes. Inside it is a flask of water, some rice wrapped in a palm leaf, a jar of ointment, and a beautiful diamond. The ninja's rations are basic but welcome, increasing your stamina by 1 point. You empty the contents of the jar into your hand and apply them to your wounds. Their healing powers take immediate effect, and you feel yourself growing stronger, increasing your stamina by 3 points. You leave the hall, taking just the diamond with you. The only possible way out of the hall, as far as you can see, is by using the chute in the northern wall. You decide to give it a go and climb into the chute. You slide down gently, landing on your back in another room. As soon as you stand up, you are confronted by the most repulsive sight you have ever lived. As you make a lunge at the blood beast, you suddenly start to feel faint. The gas rising up from the pool is highly toxic, and you slump to the floor. Although the blood beast is too bulbous and heavy to climb out of its pool, its long tongue stretches and wraps itself around your leg. Still unconscious, you are dragged into its pool of slime. After being pre-digested by the vile slime, the hideous blood beast will consume you at its leisure. The tunnel veers sharply to the left and comes to an end. You have no choice but to open the door, as the wall is too smooth to climb. You lunge at the creature's stomach with your sword drawn, but the creature whips around, parrying your blow. Neither of you are harmed. The giant creature whips its huge tail directly at you. You duck too late, and it smashes you onto a wall, costing you valuable stamina. You seize an opportunity to attack the creature's leg, but it's ready for you. Before you can strike, it pierces your shoulder with its razor-sharp claw. You are exhausted and sit down for a rest on the tail of the dead. The iron ring is attached to a small trap door. It lifts up easily. The doors open into a tunnel running north. You close the doors behind you and set off once again. Walking along, you see a red line painted across the tunnel floor.
Without your weapons, you are more vulnerable, and the loss of your sword leaves you feeling almost naked. And the tunnel leads into a marble-floored hall with pillars rising right up. The tunnel veers sharply to the left and comes to an end that you have no choice but to open the door, as the wall is too smooth to climb. You quickly eat some provisions, increasing your stamina by 4 points. The giant creature whips its huge tail directly at you. You duck too late and it smashes you onto a wall, costing you valuable stamina. The giant creature whips its huge tail directly at you. You duck and roll quickly, slicing a chunk from it as it passes. You seize an opportunity to attack the creature's leg, but it's ready for you. Before you can strike, it pierces your shoulder with its razor-sharp claw. You are exhausted and sit down for a rest on the tail. The iron ring is attached to a small trap door. It lifts. The doors open into a tunnel running north. You close the doors behind you and set off once again. Walking along, you see a red line painted across the tunnel floor. The tunnel leads into a marble-floored hall with pillars rising right up to the ceiling. As you cross the floor, the razor-sharp disc whistles past your head and bites deep into one of the pillars. Turning to face your would-be assassin, you prepare yourself as he advances, his long sword drawn. The ninja leaps at you, his sword screeching towards your head. You parry, but his sword bites deep into your arm. The ninja leaps at you, his sword screeching towards your head, but you parry and are able to kick the fighter directly in the stomach. You find a rock lying in the corner and throw it hard toward a pillar where the ninja is hiding. As he looks around it, the rock hits him agonizingly in the face. You decide to search the ninja and find a cloth bag in the folds of his robe. The ninja's rations are basic but welcome, increasing your stamina. You empty the contents of the jar into your hand and apply them to your wounds. The only possible way out of the hall, as far as you can see, is by using the chute in the northern wall. You decide to give it a go and climb into the chute. You slide down gently, landing on... As soon as you stand up, you are confronted by the most repulsive sight you have ever... As you make a lunge at the blood beast, you suddenly start to feel faint. The gas rising up from the pool. The blood beast is too bulbous to climb out of its pool, but its long tongue whips out and tries to wrap itself around your leg. Fortunately, you have fallen beyond its reach. The air at ground level does not contain any of the poisonous fumes, but you wake with a pain in your throat. You cover your mouth with your sleeve so that you can breathe through it and decide what to do.
As you run around the side of the pool, the blood beast flicks out its long tongue once again. Let's test your skill. Reacting quickly, you manage to jump over the outstretched tongue and run into the tunnel, leaving the blood beast wallowing in its pool to await another victim. The tunnel leads into a large room. Its ceilings, you recognize the beast. It is a manticore. Taking heed of the... You raise your shield in front of you just in time to protect yourself from a volley of spikes. The giant creature whips its spiked tail at you, firing more spikes. You duck and roll, quickly slicing a chunk from its tail, passing close to you. You seize an opportunity to attack the creature's back leg and manage to bury your sword deep into its thigh. The creature runs directly at you. You move too late, and the creature smashes you onto a wall, costing you valuable stamina. As you are wiping the manticore's blood from your sword, you are surprised. The gnome smiles and says, "You truly are a great adventurer. Now, you will also need a sapphire." The gnome, still smiling, says excitedly, "Excellent. Just one to go. Lastly, you'll need a diamond." The gnome jumps in the air, yelling, "Well done! Nobody has ever managed to find all 3 gems before. Now get ready for the final test, which I will explain once and once only. As you can see, the lock on this door has 3 slots labeled A, B, and C, each of which is built to accept a specific gem. You have to put one of the 3 gems in each of the slots in the correct order. If you manage this at the first attempt, fine. However, if you put the gems in the wrong slots, you will be blasted by a bolt of energy from the lock, causing you injury. So choose carefully. I'm allowed to help you a little. If you place 1 gem in its correct slot but get the other 2 wrong, I shall shout 1 crown and 2 skulls. If you place all 3 gems incorrectly, I shall shout 3 skulls. You'll be allowed to try again and again until you either succeed or die. Are you ready? You signal your readiness with a nod of the head and walk forward to place the 3 gems in the slots. For your first try, decide now which gems you will place in the labeled slots.
You just had time to hear the gnome say, "1 crown and 2 skulls," before a white bolt of energy shoots out from the lock into your chest, knocking you unconscious. It's 1 dice plus 1 for the damage. You come to, and you are told by the gnome to try again. You know you placed 1 gem in the correct slot, but which one? You just had time to hear the gnome say, "1 crown and 2 skulls," before a white bolt of energy shoots out from the lock into your chest, knocking you. You come to, and you are told by the gnome to try again. You know you placed 1 gem in the correct slot, but you just had time to hear the gnome say, "1 crown and 2 skulls," before a white bolt of energy shoots out from the lock into you. Alas, you have run out of stamina. You collapse on the spot and rattle out your last breath. Your adventure ends here. The tunnel leads into a large room. Its ceiling, you recognize the beast. It is a manticore. Taking heed, you raise your shield in front of you just in time to protect yourself from a volley of spikes released. The giant creature whips its spiked tail at you, firing more spikes. You duck and roll, quickly slicing a chunk from its tail, passing close to you. You seize an opportunity to attack the creature's back leg and manage to bury your sword deep into its thigh. You lunge at the creature's stomach with your sword drawn. It tries to move, but you land a powerful blow. As you are wiping the manticore's blood from your sword, you are surprised to... The gnome smiles and says, "You truly are a great..." The gnome, still smiling. The gnome jumps in the air, yelling, "Well done! Nobody has ever managed to find all..." You just have time to hear the gnome say, 3 skulls, before a white bolt of energy shoots out from the lock into your chest, knocking you unconscious. It's 1 dice plus 1 for the damage. You come to and are told by the gnome to try again. You chose the wrong gems last time, so you won't try that combination again. You just have time to hear the gnome say, 1 crown and 2 skulls, before a white bolt of energy shoots out from the lock into your chest. You come to, and you are told by the gnome to try again. You know you placed 1 gem in the correct slot, but which one? You just have time to hear the gnome say, 1 crown and 2 skulls, before a white bolt of energy shoots out from the lock. Alas, you have run out of stamina. You collapse on the spot and rattle out your last breath. Your adventure ends here. The tunnel leads into a large room. You recognize the beast. It is a manticore. You raise your shield in front of you just in time to protect yourself from a volley of... The creature runs directly at you. You move too late, and the creature smashes you onto a wall, costing you valuable stamina. The giant creature whips its spiked tail at you, firing more spikes. You duck and roll, quickly slicing a chunk from its tail, passing close to you. You seize an opportunity to attack the creature's leg, but it's ready for you. And before you can strike, it rips your leg with its razor-sharp claws. As you are wiping the manticore's blood from your sword, you are surprised. The gnome smiles and says, "You truly are a great adventurer." The gnome, still smiling. The gnome jumps in the air, yelling, "Well done! Nobody has ever managed to find all 3. You just have time to hear the gnome yell, 3 crowns! Before the lock clicks open. As the heavy door swings slowly outwards, the gnome rushes towards it, hurling the glass ball at your feet. Green gas escapes from the broken glass. I'm afraid we'll need to test your luck to see if you avoid inhaling it. Covering your nose and mouth with your hand to avoid breathing in the gas, you follow the gnome through the open door. You enter another tunnel, at the end of which is the welcome sight of daylight. Much to your surprise, you see the gnome lying dead halfway down the tunnel. A crossbow bolt protrudes from the side of his head. The gnome, in his own bid for freedom, has fallen foul of Baron Sukhumvit's final trap. You walk past him and out into the brilliant sunshine. As soon as you appear at the tunnel exit, a large crowd begins to cheer and shout. You walk down a path lined with jubilant people towards a small rostrum, and there, sitting under a colourful bamboo umbrella, is Baron Succubert. He looks astonished, as if he never expected anybody to come through his death-trap dungeon alive. Now the secret of Fang is known. As the Baron rises from his chair, you climb the steps to the rostrum, bow down before him, and watch as his cold eyes stare at you in utter disbelief. You smile grimly as he offers you his outstretched hand. To the deafening noise of the cheering people of Fang, Baron Succubert opens the chest containing your prize of 10,000 gold pieces. Then he places a laurel crown on your head and proclaims you the champion of Death Trap Dungeon. The tunnel leads into a large room, its ceiling supported by